Namaskar, this is Akhilesh Bhargava. Welcome to Tit-Bits on Business and Finance with me. The newspapers yesterday reported statewide income tax raids in Maharashtra on the office bearers of the ruling party and also on their close associates. The taxmen came with central security forces drawn from the CRPF in order to maintain law and order during the ongoing raids. This means that the local police who are under the control of those very state politicians now being raided are not being trusted and used by the central agencies like the Income Tax Department in Maharashtra when they conduct tax raids. While the findings of these recent raids are not yet out in the public, it is however generally seen that raids on the politicians do often tend to unearth incriminating evidence of tax evasion, money laundering, benami assets, etc., as they desperately try to legalize their earnings of graft. The tax raids on the opposition leaders has become a common phenomena these days, and they are all, according to us, considered to be sitting ducks due to their own misdeeds. There are exceptions, of course, but that's a general proposition. And then, however much they may have prepared themselves for any such action, they can truly never be prepared enough, in our opinion, if illicit money had been earned by them. Their mounds of cash can be hidden and secretly transferred and physically disposed of elsewhere. But what cannot be hidden or destroyed is the trail of the banking transactions through which such loot is sought to be laundered and legalized by them. And even if nothing is found on the Neta, it is often found on their close associates, their close businessmen friends who tend to be their benamidas and who hold their income and assets on their behalf. The most common findings in such searches, in such raids, are bribes being routed through contracts which are awarded to the preferred contractors of the ruling party, and money in those contracts is given back to them, back by them to the politicians through bogus payments by way of bogus expenditure, bogus loans, bogus advances, share capital and other entries, or by way of benami assets held by them, whether in India or abroad, on behalf of those politicians whose benamidas they are. The banking and digital footprints of such transactions easily help the investigating agencies to connect the dots and detect the illegal transactions and tax evasion, etc. What has made the tax raids more and more successful of late is that the existing tax laws have been amended and new ones have been enacted in order to strengthen the hands of the Income Tax Department, to strengthen the hands of the Enforcement Directorate by giving them wide-ranging powers. Moreover, a single transaction of tax violation can often lead to penalty and prosecution simultaneously under different laws, which is the Income Tax Act, the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, the Benami Act, and the Black Money Law. This reflects on the increasing success of tax and other raids on netas and their ilk, as we have been seeing these days. Because of this, lots of raids are on. A report in the Business Standard says that the CBDT has set a record for search operations against tax evasion during the current financial year. The undisclosed income found in tax raids in just 9 months from April to December 2021 is about 32,000 crore rupees, as against the earlier record of about 18,600 crore rupees of undisclosed income found in raids in the entire financial year 2019. These figures reflect the considerably expanded investigation and prosecution powers of the Income Tax Department and also of the Enforcement Directorate, whose list of punishable offences, which are called predicate offences, has been made even longer during the past few years. So how has the government gone about making the Income Tax Department and the ED more and more powerful in order to tackle this menace? Let us examine this journey so far of strengthening these departments. It began with the enactment of the Black Money Act in 2015, under which any undisclosed foreign income or asset can be seized and taxed at the current market prices of that asset with no time barring deadline or limit whatsoever. So if a Neta or an individual acquired undisclosed foreign assets, say 30 or 40 or 50 or how many years ago, and they are found out now by the government, then the same will be subject to tax at their current market value and not at the price for which they were then bought. And the tax and penalty payable can be as much as 130% of the value of such undisclosed foreign assets, with the added threat, of course, of imprisonment. The second is that the Black Money Act operates in tandem with the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, such that any foreign income that has not been taxed will constitute an offence under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act also and will be doubly punishable. Then, the Benami Act was made operational in 2016, thus getting Benami assets and income under the taxing and prosecuting ambit of this act, and there is no shortage of politicians in India who hold their illicit loot under Benamidas and under name lenders. In this sequence of strengthening of these acts and departments by the government in the last few years, the Business Standard reports that the Finance Act 2017 connected the PAN numbers with the Aadhaar number to be able to identify the tax evaders, and it has also removed the need for tax officials to explain to a court the reasons as to why they believe that a certain person needs to be raided. Thereafter, the concessional treatment window which was available to tax offenders under the Black Money and the Benami Acts was also for a very short period, and it was very soon closed so as to hit the rigors of the act on these tax offenders with full blow and ferocity. In this sequence of strengthening the arms of the departments like the Income Tax and ED, etc., the government then enacted the Fugitive Economic Offenders Act of 2018 in order to go after all those who had fled abroad after looting banks and also after evading taxes worth more than 100 crores. Since in the big ticket tax evasion cases, it is common to find that the illegal funds of such persons have been routed into secret assets abroad, these amendments now empower the Income Tax Department to deal with these tax evaders in a comprehensive 360-degree manner, leaving no item, no aspect of tax evasion or undisclosed income untouched. It of course gets into its grip money laundering transactions and offences also. To further strengthen the Income Tax Department and to make its investigation even more effective, the norms for taking up scrutiny cases are being revised to be able to make them more fruitful and result-oriented. Further, for better coordination in the government itself, the CBDT is reported to have set up a multi-agency group which includes representatives of the Income Tax Department, Reserve Bank of India, Enforcement Directorate, the Financial Intelligence Unit as its members, with a focus on finding out information about the tax evaded foreign income and assets of resident Indians so as to take these tax evaders to task. Finally, the ED's machinery has been strengthened and its powers have been expanded to be the sole agency to probe and prosecute money laundering cases which are arising from crimes which could range from corruption in government offices to stock market manipulation to banking fraud to even offences of human trafficking, narcotics, fake currency rackets, etc. The ambit of the ED under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act today is extremely wide. It includes almost any possible conceivable crime, and the ED very soon gets into action when such information is found out. The larger picture which is evident from these developments of bolstering and considerably enhancing the powers and machinery of the likes of the Income Tax Department and of the Enforcement Directorate and their numerous raids on netas it was discussing. Let's have a look at it. The first point in this larger picture as we see it is that the enhanced powers together with the present day politics of witch hunting have meant that the number of surveys and searches by the Income Tax Department in general have shot up as compared to the earlier years. The number of these operations during the 9 months ended 31st December 2021 were far more than the total in the entire financial year 2019-20, and that trend of increasing actions of search and surveys continues. If the number of tax scrutinies have gone down, then that is matched by the number of surveys and searches being conducted by the ITD, which have shot up, and their efficacy is much more superior than what it was in the earlier years when the tax laws were not so much stronger and comprehensive as they now are. The second point in the large picture as we see it is that the numerous laws that apply to a single offense of tax evasion, depending on its nature and magnitude, mean that the punishment now meted out to the tax evader is very heavy and extremely stringent. The laws that get applied in large tax evasion cases with hidden assets abroad include the Income Tax Act, the Black Money Act, the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, and often the Midami Act too, and the resultant combined tax and penalty paid by the tax evader under all these laws will exceed the evaded income in multiple times, apart from the consequent prosecution that will take place under all of them. The third point, the corrupt netas are easy picking and what we call low-hanging fruit for the tax department and for the enforcement department. Netas being the fountainhead of corruption in India that sits at the top of the pecking order. Few tax raids on the netas prove to be failures. They always turn out with some incriminating evidence of tax evasion, etc. It is common to hear about massive incriminating findings and tax evasion being found in a tax raid at a politician or at his associate, giving enough justification to the government for conducting such raids. And for those netas who may have looted the public or the treasury, it is also the most appropriate punishment being meted out to them under the law. As more and more nations cooperate in combating tax evasion and money laundering worldwide, and they share real-time data, the instances of tax raids on international tax evaders, on big tax evaders, the big fishes, will go up. And the action will generally be successful because of the data and evidence already at the government's disposal. Let me tell you, very often when these big netas are raided successfully, a lot of international linkages of tax evasion and money laundering are found. And that is being combated because of real-time sharing of data. The only worrisome issue for a democracy to us is the misuse of central agencies like the Income Tax Department, Enforcement Directorate, etc. by the ruling party, where opposition leaders are singled out for such action, while the corrupt elements of the ruling party itself are spared, or rather they are protected. These kinds of political raids are so common nowadays that it has hurt the very image of these departments, and they are rightly considered to be the handmaidens of the government. That explains the misuse of these departments in which their powers are abused in order to target political opponents. We really wish that that kind of abuse of these departments did not take place. This is Akhilesh Bhargava signing off till we meet again. Namaskar.